Round two of the New York Red Bulls and Inter Miami. Phil, last time these teams played, about 6 weeks ago, so much of the talk between you and I and the news around the game was who wasn't playing. We expect everyone to be playing, in essence, on Saturday night in Fort Lauderdale. I think sets up to be a real fun game, and I'd have to think Miami's going to try and deliver a message after what took place at Red Bull Arena.
I think you're absolutely right, and I sense something that you don't normally hear from this Inter Miami team. There actually is some resentment on the way that went. And I don't think it's necessarily against the Red Bulls, just more the circumstances. And some of those circumstances are still there. Miami's still not 100%. It seems. I was talking to Chris Henderson, the sporting director for the team, a couple of weeks back. It seems like this team has been put together so brilliantly, but has some of the worst luck that I have ever seen. It seems like whenever they get a beautiful piece of the puzzle, someone else gets hurt. So I guess even Redondo, who was coming in to fill some of those blanks, and he gets hurt. Now they have Matias Rojas coming in. Hopefully he'll be fine, but his compatriot Diego Gomez, who arguably has been their best player so far this season, even above Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, is still out for maybe another month or so. So they are a lot healthier. Some of the kids are coming back. There are no internationals that are pulling extra players away as well. So this is maybe not a full strength, but a very close to full strength Inter Miami. And as we've seen over the last 3 weeks, that can be pretty scary.
Yeah, very scary. And it's hard to obviously talk about Miami without talking about Messi. Clearly, he wasn't at the game last time these teams played. Could have been international duty. In this particular case, it was the injury, kept him out of both. It's a different team, right, Phil? I mean, it's easy to say that, isn't it? When Messi is clicking and when he is sharp, of which he has been, as you mentioned, the last couple of weeks, this is a Miami team that is very difficult to play against and very difficult to defend.
I would agree 100%, but I would also throw something else in there, that if this roster was 100% healthy, there's no doubt in my mind this is the best roster in the history of Major League Soccer. Now, some of that might be based on potential, with guys like Gomez and Redondo and Aviles at the beginning of their career. But what we have seen to this point, if everyone was there, including, say, a Facundo Farias, that there are very few weak spots. If there is one, it might be the fact that Luis Suarez is 37 and Leo Campana has not quite stepped up convincingly enough that when you get to the later point of the season, the money end of the season, where the chances are fewer and further between, you need to have a clinical guy in front. And Suarez has proven that over the years. Campana has shown times, but other times has just been absent. And I wouldn't be surprised if those do occur, that they might not exactly false nine, but kind of slide Messi into that role, especially if Diego Gomez is back and Matias Rojas is there as well. You now all of a sudden have some depth to give Messi a bit of freedom. But the point being, this roster, when healthy, is good enough to win without Messi. But now all of a sudden you throw Messi in, especially into a roster that is comfortable playing with him. There can be a negative to having a player that is that good, that they're always kind of looking around, waiting for him to do something. And I think Miami's been through that as well. But I think he's getting more comfortable with them. They're getting more comfortable with him. And that's allowing players like a Kramaski, like a Robert Taylor, to step up and be a difference maker as well. So with Messi there at this point of the season, there are still some defensive vulnerabilities. Giving up early goals, especially on cheap defensive mistakes, is something that's costly. I mean, you look at the goals that they have scored, but then look at the goals they've allowed. However, if you can give up those goals and still score 2 or 3 more than the opposition, you're going to win the championship most of the time. So the adage defense wins championships, maybe not quite as true as it used to be. It can get you close, but you do need the difference makers. Miami has plenty of them.
You knew kind of exactly what my next question was going to be, and you mentioned two names that I would bring up. You said Kramaski and Taylor. Are those the two guys, young players? Taylor a little bit older, Kramaski obviously still very young. Are those the two guys who benefit the most, you think, from being around a player like Messi and developing their game?
First of all, and not exactly the answer, I think, to the question you're asking, but the actual reality of it, no one has benefited more from Messi's arrival than Robert Taylor. I mean, we were looking at basically the son of an English expat and a Finnish mother, a bit of a legacy. His dad was a player in Finland, who looks to be a journeyman, but with a decent pedigree, a number of caps for a Scandinavian team. So a good, solid, middle of the roster player that when Messi arrived was scoring, what do they call him? The Finnish Di Maria. But he was scoring world-class goals. I think he had 7 or 8 in all competitions after Messi's arrival, and 6 or 7 of them would have been highlights in any league of the world. And he's kind of continuing that a little bit this year. And in fact, in the last game, providing Messi, which is always nice. So I think from the actual output, Robert Taylor has definitely benefited. But I think if you look at the roster as a whole, and this is one reason why I think Chris Henderson deserves a ton of credit in the fact that they go out and they have a Leo Campana, who's still relatively young, 23, and he has a Luis Suarez that he could learn from. You have a Kramaski who can learn from Messi. You have David Ruiz, who can learn from Busquets. You have some other youngsters out there with Redondo, with Aviles, Noah Allen with Jordi Alba kind of as a mentor. There are so many young, promising players who are already contributing that have archetypes in front of them that they can aim at if they can only learn to pick some of that up. So I'd say in a combination with the younger players that are coming up through the academy, Leo Afonso, I think, is one that probably deserves a little bit of credit because he might have some quickness that is lacking in the attack, some guile, some good touch, and the ability to link with Messi as well. A lot of these young players are doing their part, filling their role, and I think Tata has done a good job giving them time. There are going to be times this year where Drake Callender might be the only American in the 11. But then you look at the roster that's on the field in the 90th minute, and there could be 3 or 4 young Americans out there. So he has faith in them when needed. And what was the line Ray Hudson always used to like to say? But it's good players keeping good players out. And you want that competition. And if you're one of those players that's being left out, the only thing you can ask for is to get the chance to prove that you deserve playing time. And I think Tata is balancing that quite well. And one of the reasons why this looks to be a roster and a team that is going to come together and get stronger as the season progresses.
Potentially the best roster in Major League Soccer. That is something to be said from the guy who called the very first game in Major League Soccer. Hey, do me a favor, Phil. Be careful on the roads. I know F1 down there this weekend. There's a lot going on. If you're driving around the highways right now, take it easy. I appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes. I look forward to seeing you in person on Saturday, okay?
No problem. Looking forward to it. And don't worry about F1. If you really want to see some exciting racing, just hit the Palmetto during rush hour.